Hello everybody, it's Nonrecognition News here, and today we've got a lot of broken dates today. And the first news we've got today is coming from the Russian Federation. So we've got news today that Russia's new commander-in-chief of the ground forces has officially been appointed. So that is battle-hardened Colonel General Andriy Mordenov, who led the troops of the Russian Federation to victory in the battle and the siege of the port city of Mariupol. So, Russia has just appointed a key commander of the grueling siege of Mariupol, General Andriy Mordenov, as the head of the ground forces of the Russian Federation, the official newspaper of the Russian army reported on Thursday. So, the Russian Defense Minister Andriy Belousov described the new commander-in-chief of the ground forces as an experienced combat officer who fully demonstrated his talent as a military commander during the war in Ukraine, according to the Red Star newspaper. So, very interesting news. The next news we've got today is coming from the Kursk region. So, we've just got news that the president of the Russian Federation, President Vladimir Putin, has just made his first visit to the newly recaptured Kursk border region. So, if you remember, maybe like 6 months ago now, the Ukrainian forces launched a huge operation in the Kursk region that caught the Russian armed forces completely off guard and captured a pretty big chunk of the Kursk region in the Russian Federation. Since then, Russian armed forces have actually pushed the Ukrainian Kursk offensive all the way back into Ukrainian territory here. So President Vladimir Putin visited the newly recaptured region of the Kursk region and made some pretty big statements. So, his first statement was that the enemy, so Ukraine, is still trying to advance towards our borders. There's a need to deploy more demining units in the Kursk region. People must return home safely and swiftly, Putin noted, and that is a very big comment. So he says that we need to deploy more demining units in the Kursk region. People must return home safely and swiftly. So, after that comment, the Russian President Vladimir Putin has just made a huge decision to create a security buffer zone along the whole border between Russia and Ukraine. The Russian armed forces are currently addressing this issue, Vladimir Putin stated. So, I'll just go over that again. President Vladimir Putin of the Russian Federation stated that a decision has been made to create a security buffer zone along the border. Our military is solving this problem. So I think Vladimir Putin just gave the approval of Russian armed forces to actually create a buffer zone in Ukraine. The Russian President Vladimir Putin called the methods used by the Ukrainian armed forces and foreign mercenaries as terrorists. The residents of the Kursk region and other broader areas need additional support. The president also ordered the preparation of a comprehensive program to restore the areas of the Kursk, Bryansk and Belgorod regions affected by the actions of the Ukrainian armed forces. So Putin enacted this buffer zone operation because, according to him, Ukrainian forces are firing on civilian targets, and according to him, ambulances and unnecessary targets. So Russia has just given the approval of a security buffer zone. So I don't know if that means maybe a military operation to actually create a land-based buffer zone like the Israelis did in Syria here. So the Israeli army created a buffer zone on Syria when Bashar al-Assad fell. Maybe we could see this kind of the same thing. Russia creates a buffer zone. We just have to see. So I'll keep you updated if Russia launches an offensive on Ukraine, creating a buffer zone. But the next news we've got today is coming from Russia as well. So according to the news agency of BAS, as of 2025, Russia's total nuclear arsenal is at 5,459 nuclear warheads. The US has 5,177. So we've gotten some new news today confirming Russia's #1 nuclear place of the most amount of total nuclear warheads. So you can see here we've done the news agency of BAS Bass has actually done the calculations, confirming Russia's total nuclear arsenal as 5,459 total nuclear warheads. And along with that nuclear piece of news, we've also just gotten some breaking news that Russia is introducing a new air-to-air nuclear missiles, the US intelligence reported. So Russia is introducing new air-to-air missiles with nuclear warheads as part of a general expansion of its nuclear forces. It is reported that this is presumably a modernized version of the R-37M missile. So Russia likely maintains a nuclear stockpile of about 1,550 deployed strategic warheads and up to 2,000 non-strategic warheads, the US intelligence writes. And the next news we've gotten today is coming from Ukraine. So it seems that the next Russian and Ukrainian peace talks may happen in the Vatican. So the Vatican could host the new Russian-Ukrainian negotiations as early as mid-June, the Wall Street Journal reports. So Trump told European leaders last Sunday that the US could send US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Special Envoy Keith Kellogg to this meeting, the article notes. So on May the 16th, the Russian and Ukrainian delegations held their first in-person meeting in 3 years in Istanbul on the initiative of the Russian President Vladimir Putin, and it seems that the second meeting of the Russian-Ukrainian peace talks may just very well happen in the Vatican. So, very big news. We've also got news today that, if we remember a couple of weeks ago, in the Russian and Ukrainian Istanbul negotiations meeting, Russia and Ukraine both agreed on a 1,000 for 1,000 prisoner swap. So we've got news today that Ukraine has submitted a list to Russia for a potential POW, so prisoner of war exchange, in the 1,000 for 1,000 format. The proposal was confirmed by Andriy Yusov, the deputy head of Ukraine's coordination HQ for prisoner of war. So Ukraine has just submitted a list for Russia for a potential POW exchange in the 1,000 for 1,000 prisoner exchange swap. And furthermore, the next news we've got today is coming from the Vatican. So we've got news that the Vatican reaffirms non-recognition of the independence of Kosovo. So the Vatican does not recognize the independence of Kosovo. The Vatican stated in an official press release following the appointment of Archbishop Luigi Banco. So the Vatican has reaffirmed its non-recognition of the independence of Kosovo. And furthermore, we've also gotten some news today coming from Brussels, or more specifically coming from NATO. So we've got news that NATO's Secretary General Mark Rutte, the head of NATO, admits that Russia is producing 4 times more ammunition than all of NATO combined, and warns that in a few years Russia might be strong enough to do something, I quote, something silly. And furthermore, the next big news today is coming from the United Kingdom, which is probably one of the biggest news we've got today, because we've just got news that the British Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer, says he has just signed an agreement handing over the sovereignty of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius. So the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Thursday signed an agreement transferring the sovereignty of the Chagos Islands here to Mauritius, or the British Indian Ocean Territory islands here, to the African island nation of Mauritius. So the deal formally cedes British control of the Chagos Islands here to the Mauritius government. Under the terms of the agreement, Mauritius will lease the Diego Garcia military base within the British Indian Ocean Territories here, which is a very strategic military base in the middle of the Indian Ocean, to the United Kingdom and the United States for 99 years. So we've got news that the United Kingdom sold the island for approximately, we've gotten 2 numbers here, for approximately £3.4 billion, or £9 billion. So I'll do the conversion rate here in your bottom left corner in US dollars, but very big news. But as the British Prime Minister is handing over the British Indian Ocean Territory Islands here to the African island nation of Mauritius here, there's been lots of backlash in the United Kingdom's political sphere, because the opposition party is now slamming this as a strategic blunder. The UK's Shadow Foreign Secretary stated that this is a betrayal of our national interest by Labour. And furthermore, the next news we've got today is coming from the Middle East, and more specifically coming from Israel. So we've got news that Israel is ready for a temporary ceasefire in Gaza for the exchange of hostages, says the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. So the Israeli Prime Minister is now saying that Israel is ready for a temporary ceasefire in Gaza for the release and of the exchange of Israeli hostages. We've also got news today that a major incident took place in Jenin, in the city of the West Bank. So this city here in the West Bank. So a major incident took place in the city of Jenin in the West Bank as Israeli soldiers opened fire earlier today in the direction of several foreign diplomats and journalists visiting the city in the West Bank. So this happened after the Israeli Defense Forces claimed the diplomats did not follow an improved route and entered an unauthorized area not coordinated with the Israeli Defense Forces. So the Israeli Defense Forces have actually opened fire on several diplomats and journalists of several different countries, including EU countries. So Italy has just summoned the Israeli ambassador due to the event. France has also summoned the Israeli ambassador for an explanation for the event, and Germany has also condemned the actions of the Israeli Defense Forces shooting near the diplomats that Germany sent. And furthermore, we've also got some news today coming from Algeria. So we've got news that Algeria joins the BRICS New Development Bank, expanding the bloc's financial reach. So the move was confirmed by the NDB chief during a meeting in the capital city of South Africa, Cape Town. So Algeria has joined the BRICS Development Bank. It is a development bank established by BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, and South Africa. According to the agreement, the bank shall support public and private projects through loans, guarantees, equality participation, and other financial instruments, and shall cooperate with international organizations and other financial entities, and provide technical assistance for projects to be supported by the bank. So Algeria has joined the BRICS New Development Bank initiative, which allows BRICS nations to supply and to support Algeria with financial projects and projects altogether. So very big news. And furthermore, the next news we've got today is coming from North Korea. So we've got news that North Korea has actually sunk one of its own ships by accident. So we've got news that North Korea, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un had unveiled a new 5,000-ton destroyer at the port of Nampo, declaring it will enhance the country's strike range and nuclear capabilities. So if you remember a couple of weeks, if you watched the video, the North Korean leader unveiled a new destroyer class. Well, North Korea tried to launch its second destroyer naval class, but it ended up in disaster because North Korea's second naval destroyer was damaged in its failed launch to the water this week, state media reported. So if you can see these satellite images here, according to the North Korean media, an attempt to launch the second North Korean destroyer at Chongjin shipyard ended up in an accident. The ship fell on its side as a result at abnormal operation of the launching device. Judging by the photo, the vessel was seriously damaged. The DPRK leader, Kim Jong-un, who was present at the ceremony, called the incident a criminal negligence of those responsible and ordered the ship to be restored by the session of the Central Committee of the Workers' Parties of Korea in June. So North Korean leader and North Korea was going to be launching its second destroyer at the port city here, where it actually ended up in disaster when they were trying to launch it in the water. It fell on its side, and it seems to have split open the whole destroyer. The next news we've got today is coming from the United States, where we've got news that the US tests the Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile in second launch this year. So the unarmed nuclear-capable weapon was fired from California to the Pacific. So you can see here in your bottom left corner, we can see the video of the US testing the Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile. So this is the second launch this year of this specific missile. The missile covered about 7,000 kilometers of water, and then obviously it just landed in the Pacific Ocean. We've also got news today that Donald Trump and the South African president met in the Oval Office in the White House in the United States. So the US President Donald Trump welcomed the South African president to the White House yesterday. So here are the key points from the meeting between the US President Donald Trump and the South African president at the White House on May the 21st, 2025. So there was a lot of focus on the white genocide claim. So Trump reiterated unfounded allegations of a white genocide in South Africa, claiming that white farmers are being murdered, and they are many of them are fleeing to countries like the United States and Australia for safety. The South African president firmly rejected these claims, emphasizing that such narratives are baseless and do not reflect on the reality in South Africa. There was a bit of a tense exchange between the two leaders. During the meeting, Trump displayed videos and new articles alleging showing us violence against white farmers, which were met with composed response from the South African president, who sought to steer the conversation towards constructive dialogue. The meeting sparked frustration among South Africans, with many criticizing Trump's focus on discrediting claims and questioning the value of the engagement. The South African president, despite the tensions, later described the meeting as good, suggesting a more positive outcome than anticipated. So very interesting news. So the two leaders discussed a lot about the allegations of the white genocide in South Africa, especially the white farmers. So I'll keep you updated on that if there's anything else about that, but that was the main news coming from them. We've also got news that Biden may have 12 to 18 months to live, says the former White House doctor. So the former White House physician and Republican Congressman Ronnie Jackson told the Washington Free Beacon that Joe Biden may have no more than a year and a half to live, citing an aggressive form of cancer which was announced to us yesterday. So interesting news. We've also got news today that Washington is preparing a grand military parade for the US Army's 250th anniversary and Trump's 79th birthday. So on June the 14th, 2025, Washington, D.C. will host a major military parade to commemorate the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army, and coinciding with the President Donald Trump's 79th birthday. The event estimated to cost between $25 million and $45 million US, and will feature over 6,600 soldiers and 150 military vehicles, including M1 Abrams tanks, Bradley fighting vehicles, infantry fighting vehicles, and the Stryker infantry fighting vehicles, and 50 aircraft such as the Black Hawk and Apache helicopters. The parade route will extend from the Pentagon to the National Mall, and with heavy vehicles joining near the Lincoln Memorial to avoid infrastructure damage. So Washington is preparing a grand military parade for the 250th anniversary of the US Army and Trump's 79th birthday. So very big news. We've also got news today coming from Argentina, that Argentina records its lowest homicide rate in history with 3.8 per 1,000 inhabitants, with the lowest in all of South America. So Argentina records its lowest homicide rate in history. And that's all the news I actually have for you today. I am Non-Scene News. I'll try and provide you news that the medias around the world do not show you. I do these videos hopefully daily, so consider subscribing and liking. If you like what I do on the Non-Scene News channel, please consider donating the link in the description below, either donating in the PayPal link or becoming a member of the channel. And if you want to get news that I can't show on YouTube or simply don't have time to show on my YouTube videos, consider joining the Telegram link in the description below. So that's Non-Scene News Telegram channel. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Bye.